Game on. Skin in the game. Pastime behaviors, games to demonstrate the ability to learn, to show your talent, chess, and juggling. Juggling. If you can do that, you can move that body the way you want. They were all started as a way to be ready for inevitable war. The kings of that time must have understood the human nature is that they're probably going to attack us when we're partying or on a Sunday, things like that. War against our own sinful nature is something, that now that we have the spirit and have beaten our swords into plowshares, we have that war of the spirit now, war against your own sinful nature. Can we really grasp why Cain killed Abel? Game is not imagined. It's not a figment of your imagination, nor is it not planned for and prepared. They can plan and be there for you to make you be ashamed. Welcome everybody to Mud Flood was Armageddon. The Mud Flood was the Armageddon. Don't let them tell you anything else unless they are willing to debate you in a fair and honest, non-violent, preferably way. Did you see that? Got that thumbnail made up about chess, women in chess. Here's a disclaimer that'll let me show you some videos because Stephanie McPeak, she did it again. She got me making this thumbnail. Look at that. No artificial intel. I got this today. We'll look at a little bit of this video. National Geographic is now, they must be watching the videos and that the rise of the black pharaohs, they're into it. Oh, wait, this was a long time ago. Talking about how in Africa, Kush, we know the real Egypt is the United States, but Africa was more than likely almost all Judah and Israel. I'm glad to see Wise Up is talking about the water, even using this. I used this as a thumbnail a couple of months ago. I'm glad they're keeping up. It is all about the water. I gave him a comment, said, "Nice job, you old feisty thing, you." Boy, we used to get mad at each other. He's one of the original guys that was into it when Sylvie from New Earth Channel was exposing all this, and when I was going like the rocks are crying out and stuff. He was right there. Him, Age of Disclosure, Philip Derizian, we were the only ones. Age of Disclosure, she doesn't even profess Christ anymore. After we get done with the chess, we'll look at a little bit of why the bridges are collapsing and how they admitted they built them all on foundations of previous bridges out of, it was just quicker. They knew in the long run it wasn't the best idea, but at least now they're admitting, yeah, we built these on previous things and what we built is falling apart. I watched an old movie and they walked down an alleyway and I couldn't get a good look at the poster they walked by. So I did a screenshot, where you stop it. It's got it. Look at how he is standing on a chair with a couple of men riding bikes. And there's somebody on his shoulders. Am I seeing this right? What would they do for money back in the day? How hard do you train? And then what's it worth for that type of talent. Where did you ever hear that skin in the game thing? Well, they're saying like the earliest usage this knucklehead could find was 1986. This guy's going back, well, I see it in 1868, two kinds of gambling in the city, IBM joint venture, skin in the game. You didn't build that road. Am I sharing the screen? Sometimes I go like 10 minutes and I don't know if I'm sharing the screen. I guess I was. What do we got here? Son of perdition, Roman Catholic papacy. That's not it. That must mean I'm out of pictures. So we're into the thing about the chess now, and it's a good thing I showed the thing. Women in chess. Are women as good as men? Here are two of the daughters of a former women's champion, and they make a living on YouTube being pretty good at chess. And now they're asked a question, how come there's no national champions that have ever been women? You got to play 7 games for each level. Each guy you play, each girl you play 7 games. But they're attractive and they wear skimpy clothes and they get a lot of views, and they are pretty good, pretty darn good at
Grandmaster Man in chess. LOL. Unrealistic show. Stick to kitchen and playing hearts.
This man has no idea how bad I am at cooking.
Alex, I don't think it's cooking like that.
And on top of that, let's not forget that Judith Polgar, the greatest female of all time, beat Garry Kasparov, one of the greatest chess players of all time, and there's countless of other examples.
That's not winning a tournament. Nobody wins every chess game. It's impossible statistically to win every game. Nobody can do that. Computers don't win every game. And having a girl beat a guy, is not unusual. We're talking about, in the long run with the statistics.
Of females beating males as well. But again, you do get a lot of comments like this.
No professional woman can beat a professional Grandmaster Man in chess. LOL.
In a tournament, nobody's ever saying, come on. Oh, women power.
Think men are inherently better at chess than women? No.
Lie. She's not sure.
Did you answer this question because this is what we are supposed to say?
I just think that there should be no psychological difference between men and women, but obviously the statistics say different. So it's kind of weird that the statistics say different when, like, biologically there shouldn't be that much difference.
Do you think men are inherently better?
That's like, hey, there's one of those girls talking about how good girls are in chess. It never ends.
Not surprisingly, most of them are about Bobby Fischer, but the rest are mainly about men as well. So I ask, where are the documentaries about my heroes?
Your heroes aren't just whoever's best at chess. Your heroes are the best woman in chess. Okay.
Hi, my name is Bianca Mitchell.
Hey, Bianca, if a man said, I only care about men's chess. Well, not that it's like the WNBA and that nobody cares about women's basketball, but the girls in chess right now are only hot. They're like the Christian singers back in the 80s and 90s. They were always young and cute.
16-year-old Latina filmmaker in New Mexico. I'm a member of the U.S. Girls Chess Club and a film student at the Central New Mexico Community College. I know I'm young, but I have experience. I've worked on various movies and series such as The Great.
You got a lot of experience. It's click ahead. It's going to be Poor Women.
Most people would probably have guessed Bobby Fischer, but it was actually Lisa Lane. My fascination intensified when I realized that there was no documentaries about female.
So, hey, they put a picture of a woman on there. she didn't win the men's or the world championship. You're going to make a documentary. You're going to get a lot of views because it's like, oh no, poor
She
women.
was a chess prodigy who became the first female chess club
Oh,
president.
look, it's one of those girls. It's one of the sisters of the famous mom, and there's her, and then there's Anna Channing.
Of the Stanford Chess Club. She represents the future of chess.
Oh, does she really? Why isn't she even winning women's tournaments? Stop it. What's this Bible verse? I guess I wanted to re-emphasize, overemphasize that so that the church, through the church, the manifold wisdom of God may be known back then to them. The church was making manifold wisdom known to the rulers and authorities in the heavenly places. Yeah, it involves you, but it is not about you. Not even about me. And I had some more confirmation the other day in the Vision Quest spirit world that sure enough, Paco has to grow up and get responsible because the Paco is going back to the second Paco. The first Paco was a cardiologist, heart doctor from Spain that discovered the helical heart and fought all of his life and then proved it. And that showed me what the Gordian knot was, tied it into the Bible. And he was Paco, Dr. Torrance Paco Guasp.
That the Queen had replaced them both.
Who replaced what? Start over, Stephanie.
Need to know about the story and the hidden messages encoded within. When the Red Queen says all the ways belong to her, she's referring to her power on the chessboard, as she has the most mobility, being able to move in all 8 directions. But when the game emerged in the 7th century in the area of Persia and India,
hey, that country, Persia, was just attacked because they were going to try to take over the world and all the oil. They're still in the news. They're pretty smart at chess.
chess had no queen.
What? Back that up.
In the area of Persia and India, chess had no queen. Instead of one mate standing next to him, the king had 2 companions on either side. A vizier or advisor, the visor part of his title describing his ability to see, and a furs or counselor.
Wow, a submissive wife who knows that her husband is under the headship of God and she is honoring him and her loyalty to the creator is an advisor and a counselor, but they're not really, they're queen because they married the king.
Back then, the vizier moved like a rook, and the furs like a bishop, but each moved only 1 square at a time. It wasn't until at least 1000 AD that
Whoa. So 1000 AD, we know that's made up. So when the wolves in sheep clothing that came out of the caves with the people that obeyed God and ran to the mountain so they could say, hide us from the wrath to come, because we've heard these mountains will melt like wax, Micah chapter 1, verse 4.
the queen had replaced them both. And almost 500 years later still, that the queen became all-powerful.
You know that 500 years is the middle of the golden age. They added 1,000 years to history. I'm hoping we're getting that.
Owning all the ways or directions on the board.
Madwoman, it says.
We're told this new role was inspired by Isabella of Spain, Also a very powerful and
She's like a Virginia Slim. When you come a long way, baby, you poison the people that you hate. Book of Days, Columbus Day is Isabella Day. You come a long way, baby. You came a long way in the last 10 years to where even men want to be women now.
noble queen, and the woman behind what some call Isabella's Inquisition. However,
Yeah. Oh, wow. Humpty Dumpty said something. Where was that one thing?
still depicted, in this case, a combination of Elizabeth I's high forehead with Isabella's punishing personality. In Wonderland, the
You know,
story
that guy was a first pitcher to start taking the nude pictures of little girls and selling them. And then he wrote these books. I'm more interested in this Mad Hatter type of situation.
a bizarre book published in 1641 pre-explained why. The book was written by John Wilkins, the Bishop of Chester, and one of the founders of the
You know what? I want to make sure. I want to see it. I might have had that pulled up, a part I wanted to play. Okay, so if we get to this, I've gone too far.
Royal Society, believed to be an outgrowth of Sir Francis Bacon's concept of Solomon's House that he fleshed out in New Atlantis.
Huh.
The Royal Society is still today the oldest continuously existing scientific academy in the world.
What about chess, man? What about the Mercury? Go.
Messenger. Or rather, this was its title. What the book was called is a different thing altogether.
What's it called?
The book was initially called The Opposite of Spoomy Froth by Richard Hatton, Esquire, in one of its introductory pages. This distinction between what something is
Spoomy froth? I don't even see where that fits in chess. That's like what the ocean waves churn up some that's
called in
frothy.
its title is part of a larger rhetorical concept called the use-mentioned distinction, and it's what gives both Alice in Wonderland
Okay, now this is what I'm going to where I had it set up because this is Stephanie. I know that you get some good stuff, but you're new age and
This is an allusion back to the Red Queen's first words to Alice, mentioned earlier. But it's also a parliamentary phrase that's used in Wilkins' book, here on page 2. Oddly enough, both the Ways and Means Committee in the House of Commons and the book Mercury came into existence in 1641. But why would the name of a brand new committee on taxation show up in Mercury? Most
isn't that weird?
And yet, one way out of this madness, and one way to sidestep the blurred use-mentioned distinction, would be to simply give up legal names or legal titles and become undefinable by those powers that seek to redefine people by fiat. The Gnat suggests this option to Alice, but she fails to see the benefit. I suppose you don't want to lose your name. No, indeed, Alice said a little anxiously. And yet, I don't know, the Gnat went on in a careless tone. Only think how convenient it would be if you could manage to go home without it.
What are they even talking about?
The Exchequer, written around 1180 AD, tells us that the Treasury Office was called.
So, for anybody new that got here by that flashy thumbnail, don't pay any attention to this 1,000 years. This is during the Golden Age, which they call the Dark Ages, the 1,000 years where nothing changed. This is 180 years in. Wolves in sheep clothing, they had their Illuminati Rosicrucian marching orders to turn everything into this mess of a Trinity-centric ISIS worship.
Called the Office of Exchequer because it was set up like a chessboard.
Oh.
A checkered cloth was laid out on its counting table, and tax payments were piled onto the cloth's grid of squares and columns to be
Who would have? Did you ever know that about the exchequer? Look at this.
named because the product of their toil would be semi-annually counted. Land in these counties was divided.
People started, and then they start going like, maybe we could really go to war. We saw that book of Geodesia, where a guy talked about, oh, it's the only book we have on siege warfare. Yeah, wait for them to have a festival and then go in and kill them all. They'll be drunk. Go in at night. Go in on a Sunday. It was all about how to do war chess style. Go with this. Any more of that stuff about the Mercury?
Working for the
No?
king, but fighting one another. It brings to
That
mind the
sheriff of
situation between the lion
Nottingham.
and the unicorn in Through the Looking Glass. And it likely reflects the pressure on a sheriff or shire reeve to enforce unpopular laws and collect taxes seen as
You know what was an unpopular law? Was that you had to practice every weekend with your bow and arrow in case you got drafted to go to war. It's nice to see people talking about the Giants. And they had this in the National Geographic. I don't think it was very loud. Here we go.
Across the Sinai Peninsula, you come right into Egypt, right into Africa. It's at the Mediterranean. So you have connections with other parts of Asia and Europe. So there are different dynamics. There are different things going on. And so during the dynastic period, and just so folks understand what we're talking about, the dynastic period is the period of time when Egypt becomes a unified kingdom. Upper Egypt.
Hey, you know how that happened? A dream from Joseph when he was in prison. It's all about the Bible. Woman of Tokia. How can they, just because in 2 Samuel and I think 2 Kings, they use this term wise woman. It's an actress. This girl was an actress. Joab talked her into bringing Absalom home. David figured it out. It's, basically all Joab did was put words in her mouth. But then I remembered they had people back in the day that you could pay and they would come to your funeral of a loved one and cry and mourn and act like it was the saddest thing ever. And there are certain people that have certain talents that they would be able to, hey, well, no, Johnny is dead. But the wise woman thing did happen. There was a wise woman of Abel, unnamed figure in the Hebrew Bible, 2 Sam, and I believe 2 Kings 2. Let's see. I have 2 Kings pulled up. Let's see. No, that's Athaliah. Let's look at the Second Kings 20. Hope I got that right. Hezekiah's illness and recovery. 2 Samuel. Way to go. Not like that hasn't happened before. All the time. Rebellion of Sheba, Amasa, David and Absalom. Sheba passed through all the tribes, all the men were with Joab, came and besieged him. They cast a mound against the city. Then a wise woman, unnamed wise woman, called from the city. Listen, listen, tell Joab, come here that I may speak to you. Then he came near her, and the woman said, are you Joab? He answered, I am. Then she said to him, listen to the words of your servant. And he answered, I'm listening. He was nobody to be messed with. And she said, they used to say in former times, let them but ask counsel at Abel. That's the town that he was, that Bitcry had tried to hide himself in. He's a bad guy. And so they settled the matter because this is a legendary town. I am one of those who are peaceable and faithful in Israel. You, talking to Joab, seek to destroy a city that is a mother in Israel. Why will you swallow up the heritage of the Lord? Joab, put on the spot, answers, far be it from me, far be it that I should swallow up or destroy. That's not true. But that Sheba, the son of Bitcry, he's he's hiding in your town, and David, King David, you know, Joab might have had a hand in the murder of Uriah, where David demonstrated almost perfect repentance. You know, that's he didn't try. He man after God's own heart. But the women, right? Hey, look at that girl. And she said, Joab said, "Hey, throw his head over the wall, and we're not gonna. Then we'll stop sieging your city." And so they said, yeah, hey, boom, half hour later, boom. Okay, let's go home. Sheba, the son of Bitcry, is gone. There's another woman in scripture, Athaliah, the mother of Ahaziah, saw that her son was dead. He was the king. She arose and destroyed all the royal families. It's like over 60, something like that. And she killed them all. But they managed to save one king. But she ruled, she reigned as queen for quite a while. It did not end well for her. And of course, after she was ended up trying to kill everybody and the people didn't like her, when she finally was there, oh no, they have a real king that is a real, I didn't kill them all. She was mad. She saw the king by the pillar, the custom, the captains and the trumpeters, and she said, treason, treason, I'm the real queen. I killed them all. So that's all the chess and the women thing. A little bit of this.
Were suddenly viewed as obsolete. In their place came the new interstate highway system, a network of faster, wider, limited access roads designed for speed and efficiency. This network bypassed the old roads, diverting traffic away from the communities and bridges that once defined it.
So you consider, how they got everything, all those monument buildings, the capitals, they were rebuilding over old roads. It used to be called the Spanish Trail.
Spanish Trail were dangerous journeys, but by the early 20th century, that challenge had shifted from survival to engineering. Highways like that old Spanish Trail, which eventually...
Look at that. Those towns were already there. So of course they had to put a road on it. One of the first roads to say, and look, we even built a brick building and we carried it with the donkeys. You saw the donkeys.
The roadway required massive infrastructure projects, including expensive bridges, such as the one built at Lake Charles,
Everything's
Louisiana.
brand new.
Mind, when the concept of Route 66 emerged in the 1920s, the government...
We moved from the West in Arizona where we lived, Nevada, California, back to Illinois. I was lived within like 10, 15 miles of Route 66 for 20 years. It's like nothing to me, but I guess it's historic.
Sought to link existing individual roadway segments.
It goes from Chicago to Los Angeles.
This way, they could connect the dots, but without breaking the bank. However, this plan came with iconic bridges had already been phased out. Maintaining safe conditions along the highway was always a constant struggle. Some bridges had to be replaced to handle growing traffic, And by the mid-century, many still in service were actually in very poor condition. And here's my point.
What
While
is
these
it?
bridges may seem old from today's perspective, the reality was that by the 1950s, many of Route 66's most famous spans, especially those repurposed that we discussed earlier, 66 as something.
When they say repurposed, they're talking about doing what they could with their hot rivets and hammers and non, you know, heavy metal pressed steel, just rolled steel on old world pillars. That's what it's all about there. I think we proved that point. And you know, I could pull it up. I did a video on this thing too. It is all about the water. Good job, Wise Up. Look, I even told him, hey, Wise Up, you're on a roll. Nobody liked my comment.
Life and the villages, towns downstream that rely on sites like this. It could have even been used for filtering sediment out, some sort of fish farm. That's logical, isn't it? But like I said, when I used to poo-poo all this stuff years and years ago, maybe I went a little bit too far, and that's
Wise Up. That's just who you are. And no matter what you do, you're always the guy that is part of the history of this whole movement, man. You led me to the St. Augustine Star Forts, and I know you were super mad at me and I was very frustrated with you, but dude, you were there, man.
some of it is actually correct information.
And you know what I think? Look at this when it spins around. Do you think it's intentionally drawn like a Thunderbird? And look at what would be the left-hand side. It'll be on your right hand of the screen. How the wings of the Thunderbird are, our lungs are not the same size. Our heart chambers are not the same size. It looks like a Thunderbird in a way. Kinda? Not yet. More now from the distance. The lungs, what he, possibly cleaning the sediment. See, Wise Up can get the new stuff every now and then. I think, and I don't mean that in a mean way. He's always going to be a part of it in my book. That's the Thunderbird, in a way. It's like the chambers, they're just different. I looked up chess. Recorded history of chase desk dates back to the way it was in what they call the 7th century. They, in their world, that's their 1700s. And then there was this game, Chaturanga, and it changed in what they say that'd be the 600s Julian calendar. There was no Gregorian calendar that people were using then in India. So Chaturanga, what we're looking at, it's that one that has a king, a minister, and a general, and they say it affers, which was an early form of the queen. Well, it's a very old piece, Tamerlane chess, standard chess piece, modern moves of those other two pieces. Not until a couple hundred years of difference so far. in what we got going here. But somehow they were going to make the queen, because you have to have games, and they believe they should be preparing for war. People need to practice, and they want to practice as the power behind the throne is the queen. She has all the power because men can't help falling for those younger, prettier women, and it's been driven down your throat.
My protege, a sure winner in the next Olympics. She's completely absorbed in her skating, but innocent in the ways of the world. The day she wins the gold medal will be the greatest in my life.
Yeah, because he plans on having sex with her. But later on, she tries to hit on James Bond, saying, "Don't worry, that crazy man that's sponsoring me thinks I'm a virgin and I'm just doing it." But she still has talent, kind of like an Epstein girl.
Here are some new admirers for you. Mr. Bond, Mr. Ferrara, BB down.
And right there, she ended up in his bed trying to seduce him. Women, what is going on? The Queen in chess has evolved significantly through its origins. There was no queen. I got that poster. I made a thing. And now I did my show because I'm on like this 10-year streak of like 7 to 10 videos a week trying to say it's flat earth nation. The golden age is past because the mud flood was Armageddon. Me and my friends are never going to tell you anything else. Why would we? We're trying to prove we have your best interest at heart. We've all been orphaned, trained, brained. They had us. When we were 3 to 5 years old, they've had us for life with the globe until God freed us. Jesus, God, who rose from the dead and put his spirit in our heart that leads those called, chosen, predestined, and adopted into a new family to believe that and confess it with their mouth that he rose from the dead. He is Lord, Creator, God. Amen. Hallelujah. Aho. Aloha. Arrivederci. Ciao. Sayonara. Auf Wiedersehen. Nakame. Adios, amigos, from the border of southern Colorado and New Mexico. That's how I like to say goodbye.